Hey, and welcome to the Difference Maker Revolution podcast. And we're back again, and we have Janine and Steve and Jonathan and myself here. And we're really excited to talk today about avatars, and not just one avatar, but multiple avatars. And I really enjoyed the movie, guys. Did you enjoy Avatar?
It was a great movie and a great ride at Disney too. One of my favorites.
Yeah, so who was your favorite character, Janine, in Avatar? Who was your favorite character?
I actually didn't have a favorite character. I just enjoyed it. Wasn't one of those movies where I identified or picked a particular character. I think I was just taken by the unique storyline plots in a way, and like all of the graphics and the animations and things like that. So it was more of a overall movie experience for me.
So, Jonathan, what is an avatar? A client avatar, and we talk about it for business. What is it first before we talk about that every business has multiple avatars? But what is one first so we know what we're talking about? Because it's not the movie, right?
You're not allowed to do that. I was just about to ask that same question. Stop reading my mind. Get out of my head. Gosh, what is an avatar? Why do I get the difficult questions? Steve, what's an avatar?
It's the blue man in the movie. What are you talking about?
Well, if you need to tie it in, it's the representation of your ideal client, right? So the blue, like that's how you can tie it in with the movie if that's what you're looking for. So they were the representation of the like they joined together. So, anyways, there's your tie-in.
Oh, eloquently put. Thank you,
You're
Janine.
welcome.
I would have made a mess of that with trying to tie that in. Yeah, an avatar is basically a reflection of, or like it gives us a picture of who our ideal client is, doesn't it? It talks about when we build an avatar, we want to think of our avatar as we want to give it a name so that we know that when we visualize that avatar, that we visualize a person. And then we want to understand what are the demographics about our avatar. And a lot of people stop there, but we really want to go deeper. We want to know the psychographics of our avatar too. And no better man to explain what a psychographic is than Mr. Steve Saporito. But yeah, it's basically a reflection of who our ideal client is, isn't it?
It's that incredible person that you love getting up every day and working with. But you're right, we do need to understand a lot about our ideal client, and really get into their minds so that we understand what motivates them. So our avatars is that ideal person, and they're not mythical because they turn up every day. But I think a lot of people get confused that they have to describe a specific person. It could be a combination of some of the qualities that you find in a variety of people that make up this avatar. And so it just helps us identify who we're speaking with, and helps us find language that is going to attract more of the people that we want to get up and just enjoy going to work for.
So Ronan, why do we need an avatar?
You need an avatar, Jonathan, because you need to know or discover what your client actually needs and wants, right? So for me, has helped us in business just to understand our clients better and understand the different needs that different clients may have, and how we can help to communicate in a clear way with them as to how we can help them.
Well, we're in the business of people, right? So if we're in the business of people, we need to understand people. And we know that there's a variety of avatars that our business attracts. So I think a mistake that a lot of people make is they're told to create an avatar and they think that's it, job done. But people evolve. We're in the business of people, and as time goes by, people evolve, and suddenly we realize that, hey, that avatar that I wrote is really two different types of people, and so maybe that turns into two people. But a business has many avatars, not just one, and so we're never really done with writing our avatars because we're in the business of people, and we shouldn't ever be done with people.
I was just going to say, don't we just like put up an ad and talk about all our 8x10s and our wall art and canvas and say, come buy photography, Janine?
Well, that's actually kind of what I was going to talk about, because it's funny, like when you look at the journey a photographer takes in their business. In the very beginning, when they hang their first shingle and they have a camera, they will photograph anybody. They'll say, I'll photograph anybody that breathes. Let me photograph them because I just need business. And please, I'll just photograph anybody, and when asked, what do you photograph? I'll photograph anybody. If they're fogging a mirror, let me photograph them. And over time, naturally, photographers will start to become more specific with what they end up loving to photograph, who they end up loving to work with. And then I think sometimes what ends up happening is they attend education and listen to educators tell them you can only photograph one thing if you want to be successful. And they misinterpret the one genre or one niche as one avatar. And I think it's interesting. You see this pendulum shift from I'll photograph anybody that breathes. Please come see me, to I will only photograph redheads wearing black jeans, tall heels, driving a white Audi, kids in this specific private school. Like they go through this very superficial list, and they think that that's the only person that they can photograph in order to make a living. And so it's and I'm being very dramatic there, but you know what I'm trying to say. And so it's interesting because what we are talking about is something completely different, but it's interesting to kind of see the journey that I went on, and I have seen a lot of my photographer colleagues go on as well, in this shift from I'll photograph anybody to I only want one specific type of client, not realizing that a niche doesn't equal to an avatar.
Ooh, so does it not?
Ha ha ha! Brennan just caught what I said. A niche is something different. So look, I photograph the majority of our business right now, and what we've been really working on with our evergreen marketing is first birthday portraits, right? That's a niche. Does every client that walk through my door fit the same exact client avatar? No.
But could a niche or a niche, depending on what way you call it, could it not be an avatar?
No, because within a niche, there are many avatars. Like a niche, an avatar is a person, a personality. A niche doesn't have a personality. It's not a person. It's a topic, a subject.
Is it though? Because I always thought niching was about not spraying and praying and thinking everyone is your client, what Janina's talked about, and it's, building your business around creating an amazing experience for a particular client. So does a niche have to be driven by a genre, or can it be driven by a particular client that you connect with really, really well, and you're able to deliver that type of client a transformational experience that they absolutely rave about all the time, and want to come back over and over again? And I understand that balance about that versus, if you niche too deep, that you may find it hard to find that client who meets that avatar. But is that not a place where, if I'm new to this, that I could start? So rather than niching by genre, I niche by a type of client.
That doesn't even make sense to me. I'm trying to follow how that would make sense. To me, a niche, I can't even say the word niche. A niche, niche, whatever, is what you're photographing. An avatar is who you're photographing. And so, whether it be boudoir or first birthdays or babies or newborns or maternity or family, within that, you would never, I don't see a common conversation with a photographer being, I photograph maternity, but I only photograph brunettes. Like that wouldn't be that'd be a weird thing.
Because like an avatar could, there could be opportunities for a first birthday photographic experience with a particular avatar, and that same avatar, there could be opportunities to have, a family portrait or photographic experience, or maybe a boudoir one for the mum, right?
Yeah, so if there's a particular personality type, personality type that I connect with well and I can deliver for well, and I just get them because they're a reflection of me, possibly, right? And I decide that I can create a photography business that has that client for life and do everything they can possibly need, from newborn to young children to family portraits to boudoir for mom to. So I'm niching rather than by genre, I'm niching by the type of person I want to work with.
I wouldn't consider that. I would consider, you mean you think that being a photography studio that focuses on a client for life and following clients through their journey and photographing various milestones, that being a milestone photographer is your niche, as opposed to we photograph babies, toddlers, and then high school seniors, like following that milestone in that family. I don't know. The avatar is still the person. You still have to talk to a person and bring them into your studio, and then you can offer them different photographic experiences.
No, I know, and I think we're saying the same thing, but we're just using different languages as to our understanding of what a niche or a niche is.
But I think that it's important for our listeners to understand that in order to properly understand your avatar, you have to think of a person. Whereas when you're thinking about niche, God, I can't say that freaking word. Niches, what? I think it's because like the whole riches and niches thing, it like sticks in my head, that whole rhyme, that I have a hard time saying niche. Anyways, so that with avatars, you want to think of a person, so you can visualize this person. So when you're writing to this person, it becomes more personal. And when you're crafting your experience in your studio or on location, you can craft it for what that person would need and want and anticipate it ahead of their arrival, right? So that way, when they arrive to you, they're like, oh my gosh, Janine gets me. There's a changing table right where I need it. There's water, there's snacks, there is puffs for my baby because I forgot them. There's extra diapers because I forgot, And so to be able to anticipate all the needs of your client, that's what understanding that avatar truly is. What we photograph for that client is different.
See, I don't think it has to be.
Why?
I just don't think it has to be. I think you could build a business by serving a particular client avatar, right? So people that align with the client avatar, who have the same secret desire that may be able to be solved through multiple genres of photography, and I grow with them through their life and I become their photographer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm a difference maker to them, because I get them and I understand them so well, because they align with my avatar that I'm so used to serving. And regardless of whether I'm serving them with a client transformational experience around newborn or boudoir or family, their core makeup might be the same. I don't know the answer. It's just something that came into my head, and it's got me curious.
That's pretty much how we ran our business, Ronan, where we were very clear on our avatars and worked on developing avatars, and even got to the point where we were thinking about sub-avatars, where the partner becomes a sub-avatar, and depending upon his characteristics, it will affect our main avatar. But in most cases, people were coming to us as a family, and we were doing family photography. But that avatar, there were a number of avatars that would come to us for family photography. So the niche is family photography. And under that, there were various types of avatars that we loved to work for. And so we had an avatar that was entrepreneurial mum with entrepreneurial mum with a business, and 2 kids, usually felt guilty about how much time she has to spend at work. Husband is taking on more of a role of that caregiver. And so that dynamic amongst that family and the decisions that they make are different to another avatar we had, which was mum stay-at-home mum with dad working and 2 kids. And so what they tended to need and what influenced them as to what they needed from their experience was different to that previous avatar. But then where their next photo shoot came from was different too. So we knew usually that entrepreneurial mum is happy to spend business money. And so if we could incorporate something for business within that shoot and invite her back to do a corporate session, that they'll spend more. When we took her down that path of, okay, so, what do you really want for your clients? Do you want your clients to know that you're just like them? You're also a mum. You also have children. Well, this family session that we've just done for you would fit that role. And you could potentially use some of these photographs to display at your work, because these people usually are seen as that hard person that is heartless almost, because she's had to become and wear this armor, but deep down, she's not that person. And she wants people to realize that she's also a mum. So getting those family photos up in her business as well as home, if I didn't understand that avatar, I would never offer that. And then knowing that she cares about her employees, this is somebody that we could potentially build an alliance with, but also bring her back specifically for a corporate session where we would then photograph her in her other modality, which is the corporate businesswoman, right? So she wears different hats. And so that gives us the opportunity to photograph those different things. But that is an avatar that we love to work with. And we were photographing that avatar through multiple niches. Now, when that avatar's children grow up and they're facing empty nesters, these avatars tend to love in their dog because they're getting less from their children. And so as time progresses, it's still the same avatar that we love to serve, but we now inviting them to bring their dog in and celebrate their dog, because their dog has now become their favorite child almost, because their children are leaving the home or have left the home.
So Janine, do you think Steve is describing you?
He is describing me. Well, it's funny because he's describing me personally, although I'm not, because of James, not close to empty nesting, but with Aaron going away, it is, it's that cycle of life, but he's also describing me business wise, because we run our business very similarly right now, and everybody knows part of my why is going through life with my clients. And so we have identified certain avatars that we can follow through life with. And that's, and it's interesting because when I first started off, and this is, I don't know if this could be what you were relating to, Ronan, but like, it's funny. I got into senior portraits because my clients started growing and I didn't want to say goodbye to them, And so we've incorporated new genres into the studio because my avatars wanted them. And as Tampa has grown in our Hispanic population, I've been getting more and more quinceañeras too, and really understanding more about that celebration of life so that we can speak the language and understand and offer what they want for that celebration of that important milestone in the Hispanic culture. We do, we added first communions for our Catholic clients and things like that. So within that genre of people who moms specifically for us, it's always been still the moms that value the celebration of all of their children's milestones. We've added different types of portraiture to the studio in order to be able to celebrate that milestone with them.
So Janine, can I ask a question? Because I'm coaching businesses all over the world, and I've mentioned quinceañeras to quite a few people who have a Hispanic population on their doorstep. But the resistance I get is, well, I'm not of that culture, and so they won't book me.
So I recognized 2 years ago in our business that this was our Spanish speaking population, where Spanish was their first language and barely speaking English. And listen, Hispanic clients are my ideal client avatar. They value family. They love their children. They celebrate everything, and they celebrate it to the nth degree, right? Because they're all about family. Well, I can't speak the language, and I've tried. Let me tell you, I've tried. And it's just, something doesn't click in my brain. It just does not work. So I hired 2 people. My studio manager, fluent in Spanish, and I hired another photographer, fluent in Spanish. It's their native language. And so for me, that's how important it was to be able to speak to that community, because it's a big part of where I live. And while no matter what I tried to do, was not able to speak the language, I hired those who could, because it was that important to our business.
But that's the whole point of being a business owner, isn't it? Hiring in all those things that you can't bring to the business. And I think that's a big mistake a lot of people make, is that the first thing that comes out of their mouth is, I want to hire somebody just like me. Well, that's not solving any problems, because they'll have exactly all of your strengths, but they also come with all of your failings. And so, you're meant to be hiring the gaps, which is what you've done, which is awesome. Really good. Really good. But are we digressing from what an avatar is? Like, Ronan, you're meant to keep us on track here. Like now we're on to bunions and God knows what else.
I think it's still all about avatars, but I'm curious. So help me here. I want you guys to help me, right? I'm stuck. I've never created an avatar beyond demographics, and you guys are talking about psychographics and all this stuff that I need to understand. So how do I get started? Like, what do I do to get started? I'm so, like, if I do get started and I start with one, you're telling me, well, you need to go beyond that, because even the one client, if it's family, there's multiple avatars within the family. But then you're saying to me, well, you need to for your business, you're going to have to deal with multiple avatars who all have sub avatars, and I need to be able to figure out which one they are, and I need to be able to deliver for them. So, like, how do I do this? Like, where do I start?
5 things. 1, they must live in 90210. 2, they must drive a brand. 3, they must shop Chanel and have a Chanel handbag. 4, they must value photography. 5, they must be in love with me. Right?
Oh, God,
that's all I need. They must value photography. Then they'll spend like 10K with me, and I'm gonna be happy.
I'm impressed you even knew of the 90210 zip code. That was like before you were born, Jonathan.
It's the only zip code I know in America. 90210. Everyone knows 90210, right? Where's that? In California somewhere?
Yes, it's in California.
It's like a posh area, no?
Beverly Hills, is it?
Yes.
No?
Beverly Hills 90210. Yes.
Right. Well, let's bring it back to reality. No, Jonathan, you're wrong. I know that you're wrong. I know that's not where I start. So where do I
know
start?
I'm wrong too. I'm just playing devil's advocate. Sorry.
I know you are. I'm really slagging you back.
So, Ronan, as you know, you've been to a few of my workshops now. I run this exercise of writing an avatar, and for many people, it's the very first time they've ever heard of an avatar. And so we have an exercise, and they have to, there's a form, they fill in the forms, and it's led. It probably takes them a good 45 minutes to an hour before they realize that person they've described is themselves, in most cases, because we tend to know ourselves, and we tend to like people that have the similar traits as ourselves. And so what they thought at first was this external person, the more they dive into it, they begin to realize, I've just described myself, and I've just described myself at this stage of my life. But I think you've got to start with something. And if somebody just like you is your starting point, you'll begin to see that there'll be lots of variations of you, and they then become your avatar. But I think the first thing is just make a start and think about who you really love to serve, and then ask yourself those questions of, where do these people live? What is their marital status? Do they have children? What do they say they want when they call? What do they secretly want from you? All of these things that we've got, courses on, and start to listen. Because the very first time you do this, we haven't been paying enough attention to answer the questions well enough. And so then over time, as we begin to pay more and more attention, all of the other avatars do become very obvious, because we've taken the time to understand people. So I think start with one, and it will be generic, and that's okay. But it's better than not having one, isn't it?
Yeah, so let's say, Steve, I want to be a master like you, right? Roughly in the world, is there a set number of avatars? Is there a set number like that? Let's say I'm a perfectionist, right? I'm high owl, and I want to know everybody, all the avatars in the world, right? Is there a number that we can put to that, or is that even possible?
No. Because you've also got to think that I know when I work with that ideal client of mine, when I talked about the entrepreneurial, and let's call her Mary, right? When I get a Mary into the studio, I know that when Mary comes into my studio with her family, this is what I can expect. She wants people to believe that even though she's the entrepreneurial, hard-ass woman at work, when she's home, she's that soft person. And this is who she truly is. But she's had to become this other person at work, right? And then when I've brought Mary in to do her branding headshots, this is another version of Mary, right? So even though I have my avatar, when she comes back as the corporate version of Mary, it's a different avatar. The basis is the same, right? But the nuances and her focus is different, because when she's wearing her corporate hat, she becomes a different person. Now, when Mary came back with her sisters, right, for though she was getting together with two of her other sisters to give something to her parents, so the grandparents, different person again. Now, the core is the same, right? But what they're after is something different, because when we are with different people, we become, we take on a different role. And so depending upon which hat Mary's wearing, right? There's corporate Mary, there's home Mary, and now there's family Mary, right? And so one avatar has just become three.
So if we take Mary in this example, Steve, because I'm fascinated by this. So if we take Mary as that example, and Mary is her demographics of her avatar will be the same in those three scenarios, right? So what part is changing? Is that the bit about what she secretly wants?
It's about how she wants to be seen, and how she wants other people to believe who she is when she's wearing this hat, this different hat. What she's going to want, the reasons why she would want to display something in her office, at home, in her parents' home, as part of a family album, are going to be all very different. So those motivators, those keywords change according to who she is being and needs to be seen as in that moment. Does that make sense?
It's as clear as clear water or crystal water, but have you ever tried to hunt down where a spring of clear water is? Like,
They're in Florida. We have springs here.
we do have here, but try and find one without a stick that moves. You know, that special stick that you hold and it starts to vibrate once you're over a spring.
Is that like a leprechaun thing?
No, when you used to try and find a well in Ireland in the spring, there used to be these guys come in and they'd hold a stick and they'd hold it out in front of them. And once they were over water, the stick would start to vibrate. Do you not guys have that in Florida?
I've never heard of that. But wait,
Yeah.
before we go down that path, there's something else I wanted to bring up because when Ronan, you were talking about how do you start, I think that once you start, something that I really want my fellow photographers and difference makers to keep their minds open to is how your client, like how new client avatars might present themselves to you without you even realizing it, and keeping your mind open because it opens up other avenues for your business. And I'll give you a great example. Last year, we had a foster parent come in and bring their baby for a first birthday session, which I thought was incredibly unusual. You know, I've never had a foster parent come in before because the babies aren't usually with them for very long. And so I was so intrigued by it. I started asking her questions like, what motivated you? Like, I just have to know, like, this baby's only with you for a short period of time. What is motivating you to bring this baby to us? Right. And so talked with her, had in-depth conversations with her. 2 weeks later, another foster parent booked for a first birthday session. And a week later after that, another foster parent booked with us for a first birthday session. And so I'm like, something's going on, right? And so I had more conversations with them. Turns out that the first parent, while you can't put on social media babies that are in foster care for very specific reasons, they do have support groups for each other. And so the first parent was so touched by how much we were intrigued and wanting to help and wanting to understand that she posted in their support group about us. And then these other parents who were like-minded, that they also wanted to be able to celebrate this baby, even though it wasn't their biological baby. And they viewed their role of this baby as taking care of this child during this specific time of life. And then, anyways, I don't want to take up too much podcast time, but because we were open to listening, we found an entire new avatar. And we found a way to reach out to that avatar in non-traditional marketing methods because we were willing to listen and ask questions and be open to how we can make a difference in this avatar's life, even though it didn't traditionally fit what we would think of. Does that make sense? And so I want people to think about this. And I'd love Steve's opinion on this too, like how we can keep our ears open so that when these new avatars walk through our door, we understand who they are, and then we can have conversations to figure out how we can serve them.
It's just like you've just decided to buy a new car. You've done all this study and finally you've decided that you're going to buy a new car. Suddenly you see this car everywhere, right? It's now in your conscious awareness, right? Now, were all those cars out on the road all the time anyway? Of course they were. And I think this is why we need to really understand our avatar, because when you do your research and you decide on a car, that's now coming into your conscious awareness. All right. So now when you are creating each and every one of your avatars, all of those traits, all of those little signs that tell you this is the right client for me now come into your conscious awareness. So you'll begin to see your potential clients more clearly through all of the haze because you've now taken the time to understand them. So it's almost like exactly what you've just said. You know, you've just decided to buy a new car. Now you see them everywhere. And so my team and my staff used to always say to me, how do you do it? You go out and you go out to buy a coffee and you walk back with a client. You go out, you leave the store or you leave the studio for like 15 minutes and you've come back with a client. It's because I know that the avatar so well that they just stand out. And then you just know what to say, you know what to ask, you know the sorts of questions that they need to hear that attract them to what you do. And so you become more desirable because you're aware of what these people need. And that's pretty much what you've done, Janine.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Jonathan, I can't believe we're going over our normal time for a podcast.
I'm like, we could talk about this for another hour. We need to do like a part 2 of Avatar.
I think we can. Because I have a whole load of questions left, but we don't have time today for it. But Jonathan, I think you should tell everybody, if you want to take this journey. No, it's not that you should want it. You have to take this journey to discover who your client avatar is. What should they do, Jonathan? What should our listeners do?
If you want the quickest, fastest, easiest way to discover your ideal client avatar, you need to click the link below this podcast, sign up for a free 30-day trial of Difference Maker Impact Level, where you're going to get access to the fully booked engine, which is the home of our amazing AI marketing wizard, KCB, and training to help you discover your ideal client avatar. The first draft of it, how awesome is that? Then you can come to the weekly call, get feedback from the mentor team on that client avatar. Right, ad copy for your Facebook ads tailored to that avatar, so you attract more potential clients that reflect that avatar. Then deliver a discovery call experience to them and create quality bookings and quality clients. That's incredible, right? Just click the button below, sign up for a free 30-day trial of Impact, and we'll see you on the call soon.
We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. It's bye from me.
Oh, wait, I'll do my other. I lied. I have 5. Adios. I can say goodbye in Spanish too.
Ciao, Min.